I call the Honourable Member Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like I'm in a vortex at the moment. The member in the chair has spent quite some time trying to explain to the House why this is an incredibly important piece of legislation to him and to the government, and yet he is the only government member who has spoken on this bill. So if there was such passion on that side of the House, I really do welcome a call from perhaps Sandra Gowdy, who tried to gesture that she'd once been a union delegate. I would genuinely like to hear Ms. Gowdy's delegate stories. I would genuinely like to hear that. Perhaps a union delegate to the mangroves of the Hauraki Plains. But I really would welcome that. In fact, any government member I would welcome speaking to this bill, because I believe that it would only reinforce the eloquent comments made by the member who probably referred to his bill once or twice once he was done with his insults. But I have an actual question for the member in the chair. I would really like to understand the origins of this a little better. He did allude to his knowledge of the union movement, his history in the union movement, but actually he's trying to debate a point that we're not debating. We're not debating that there's anything wrong with the use of secret ballots. In fact, the reason we allowed this to go to Select Committee on our side in the first place was because we acknowledge that secret ballots were common union practice. And so, therefore, we had no fear of this being discussed as an issue. But it became more and more obvious to us that this was an unnecessary piece of legislation. And in fact, it had the ability to create a distortionary effect. And so we're not debating the relevance of secret ballots here, I would say to the member. So I would like actually to hear from his perspective some genuine examples, some real-life recent cases that he's obviously had brought to the attention. Otherwise, I fail to see why he's driving this unless he has had some experience or cases brought to him. Perhaps if he could share those with the House, it would improve our understanding of his motives, because at the moment I'm not clear on his motives around this bill.
It's a mystery.
And I think it's also interesting that if we dig down beneath the fact that, as we've said on this House, it is common practice, and we do have members on this side of the House who have had recent experience with this process amongst workers. So I would really like to ask him to explain in this title clause debate what is driving this. I think actually if I were to therefore give a new title suggestion for this debate, maybe it's a bill looking for a problem bill, because at the moment I haven't clearly heard articulated what the issue is. I could see the chair was looking at me graciously, expecting me to speak directly to this clause, and that's why I'll bring in at this point my ridiculous alternative titles, if the House can bear with me. So there it is, a bill looking for a problem bill. But I also think that perhaps I would also like to throw out the option of the bill reinforcing old prejudices bill, or perhaps the contradictory bill, because ultimately, what the member has tried to tell us is that this somehow would improve the process. We're saying secret ballots already occur. He's trying to require it via legislation. To me, that seems slightly contradictory with the usual perspective that a member of the National Party would take on such matters. If we can prove that it's happening generally, why would the member wish to entrench it unnecessarily into law and create unnecessary red tape? The National Party tried to pride itself on being the bastions of those being against red tape, and yet when it comes to the union movement, seem to take a completely alternate view. So perhaps instead we could call this the I didn't wish to explore voluntary codes bill, because every other time I've seen the potential of regulation coming in, the first thing that someone who usually looks at these things with the perspective of business would say, let's do it as a voluntary code. Let's see if we can bring this about through compromise, through a collective approach. And actually, that's what the unions do. They have their own democratic way of operating. They abide by their own written constitutions. That's how it works. So again, So again, I ask any member of the National Party to contribute to this debate.
Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very happy to take a call